Hello, this is Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM, and this is my podcast, The Hermit's Homebrew. Joining me today is Brent from Lang Mini Studios, and Chase, better known as Kilk, as we talk about Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop gaming. So welcome back, everybody. We're here talking about our home game and everything going on with it, and arriving finally back in our material plane of Garatokai or Midgard, depending upon which denizen you're asking at in our home setting. A return of a much less serious overall feeling to the campaign for sure. The last two sessions that we're going to cover here in this next kind of series of episodes, and a more, in my opinion, normal level of D&D kind of rounds back from a more grave, serious overall campaign setting that's been the last 3 years. And then we will round back at the end towards the final War Council with Rathgrith. Mm-hmm. And then, so let's just kind of dive straight into the pool here and get our feet wet and talk about this final leg. Trudway had been returned back to the Nimdern Republic. The group had chosen to go off back to Midgard, except for Toybar, who you, Chase, decided to stay behind in Muspelheim and go on your side adventure during kind of your, because I warned everybody that there'd be downtime, so that kind of gave you the prompt, hey, if you have anything personal or you want to do anything, now's the time. Before I continue any further, I wanted to ask what your thought process was behind staying behind with Gillivickle while you guys were not you guys, but you in particular were quiet at first about with the rest of the group, even player to player, that you had planned to go visit Baba Yaga on what became now Gillivickle's astral skiff being piloted by a half dozen BB-8 automatons.
Yeah. It was one of those moments where I realized that I had been a little bit of a hoarder of insane magical items, or at least magical components that could be used, right? And that happens, I feel like, a lot to people in a lot of campaigns. They just don't ever find times to use some of these really wild items that they come across. And I was like, all right, so I know that this is going to be the big bad fight. There's the option of going back with the party to the main place or staying behind and kind of coming up with this really cool idea. And Toybar kind of cut ties with that city when he sold everything to Minos.
He did.
And although he would love to go back and see them, he also understands that hey, I got to come up with something really cool or something really strong that can help everybody in this, because he's under the assumption that's what everybody else went to do as well, right? To finish up the things that they had to do to fight the big bad. And it took me a very long time to come up with Apu is his name.
AAPU. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anti-aberration protection unit.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really wanted to create a golem because as the player, I know that Gillivickle is one of the strongest artificers, technically, in the setting.
Yeah.
He's also a huge friend of Toybar's.
That he is.
And I've seen golems happen and stuff, right? And I have the star metal, this runed metal, and I came up with this idea to make a golem with all of these cool, wild, magical items. And how do I breathe life into junk, runed metals, and all this other stuff? Fangs, heads from werewolves, 2 left hands of a demon. How do I bring this to life? And the decision was to go with Baba Yaga, because Baba Yaga knows about blood golems. She had one running around in her area.
Yeah.
And it looked really goofy.
She had an undead flesh golem, to be exact. But yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, I bet Baba Yaga knows how to do this. She's right down the road. It's on the way to go check to see if the city is there. And she still owes me a lesson.
It was reminiscent of that scene I've told you guys away from Mike that the kind of plot idea that I had in my head of what I kind of wanted to run the overall kind of beats to is something along the lines of Return of the King or Return of the Jedi. And it just kind of reminded me, without me even trying, that scene at the end of when they killed Jabba the Hutt, and they go the main group goes one way, and then Luke goes the other way, and I have to go see I have to go see a friend.
Yeah.
Not saying Toybar is the main character by any means, but it is a good comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we had the skiff, right? We had the skiff. It was a way for Toybar to tie up a few loose ends, and it gave me a reason to go talk to Baba Yaga again, who owes me a lesson, basically, and we turned that lesson in to helping create this thing rather than a lesson, which is kind of sad. But and he didn't turn out exactly the way I thought he would, right? I had this idea. I drew it at the table with you guys. I didn't want anybody to know. I wanted it to be a surprise at the table, like what this was. And I still didn't even know what I was going to do when I sat down at the table.
No, and you had come up to me with about a half a dozen different ideas, and I'm just like, I'm game for anything you have.
Yeah, I want to do this, do that. Like
the upside of DMing for 16 years, being with some less than favorable parties that like to pull shenanigans, and learning from those failures over the years, or the stuff that they are really absurdly pulled, is most of the stuff you guys pull. Yeah, it's a surprise, but I can handle it because I've had rougher situations than this.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pull something that's going to derail everything.
No, and I know you guys won't. That's why I trust you guys. Also, for anyone that's listening with Baba Yaga, we do run a Nordic loose setting, and granted, she is a Slavic, that's right, or Germanic Slavic, mythology kind of figure. She's an archfey in our setting, kind of an archfey patron that I have in our campaign guide that's coming out, and I describe her as this kind of short, stout, for anyone that's been to the Midwest or lives in the Midwest that's listening to this from the Midwest, it's that stereotypical stout Midwestern woman that's just built like a house of bricks that not to mess with, and she's shorter than everyone else, and you can tell she's just a pistol.
Yeah.
She's a lot of fun. And I drew my idea. I just drew it out at the table. And then I kind of looked at it and I'm like, oh, I have this, I have a ring of mind shield, I can do that. And I was like, I'm gonna create Batman. Anti-aberration Batman. And I gave him the cape and my belt of I had a belt of holding I'd gotten from Mahadi. So it was like, I was like, he's got a utility belt. He's got the flying carpet that he can wrap around him. He can fly around if he wants to. Yeah, like Doctor Strange. Like it was just fun. It didn't turn out that way, obviously, but that's fine. I think the way that he is now is hilarious. So
he because he used clay. He absorbed all the magic items into this clay body, and basically any of the enchantments of the magic items that you used as the side effect are part of him.
Yeah, so now he's basically he's got a ring of mind shielding in him.
Yeah,
he's basically an interdimensional space inside of him.
So you can, his torso, much like Bender from Futurama, is a bag of holding. He can,
or the swamp guy from One Piece.
Oh, yep. Also,
that's probably a perfect way to describe that.
Yeah, actually, I 100% agree with that as well. For that, at least that reference for anyone that knows anime. The other thing is, like, he's got the ring of mind shielding, so as an action, he can turn himself invisible. No one can discern whether he's lying, and if he dies, his soul just gets trapped inside his own body. Carpet of flying, he can fly. He has a couple of aberration things, so he has resistance to psychic.
Oh, he did not get the carpet.
Oh, he did not get the carpet?
Baba Yaga forced me to trade that with her because she hadn't seen one in, like, eons.
That was part of the
deal.
Okay,
she's like, I haven't seen one of these in forever. I was like, what? But I just got this, and I've been floating around on it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's right.
So he can't fly.
Okay, I'll take that off the stat block.
That might be for the best.
We don't want him to be too broken.
Oh, he is.
He might gain that ability.
He's got 2 left hands.
Yeah, 2 left hands of Rakshasa. Yeah.
He's got claws. And he's
Um,
originally developed for any of my older school listeners of OSR and all that. He is based off the Enveloper from 1E, which is this big clay golem that just like throws themselves on people and then absorbs their attributes or their stats, and then eventually just grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
especially if he starts getting intelligence, that's bad.
And he's not, he's Drax level intelligence. He's just hungry all the time right now.
But yeah, if he starts getting like large amounts of intelligence, like towards human levels and stuff, it's gonna get really weird for the party, for anybody at that point.
I think so.
That's future party's problem.
Yeah, I mean, Odin did say that Ragnarok is gonna happen again, and all the gods are gonna die. So
The thing that, and of course with Baba Yaga, when you're trading with her, there's one always catch, or there's one kind of abstract thing that she'll always pull from you with the deals. And I didn't fully comprehend, even maybe from a story point of view, what the consequences could be, even from as a dungeon master, because you and me were talking about it, Chase, when I told her that you, as a wild mage, she required you to take one off your strength or put one shard of yourself into him, because it's such a wild enchantment to give him life. So technically, he has a shard of a Vaffy that's brought him to life.
yeah,
That could be interesting.
if not like a fully awakened Vaffy yet, but like yeah, for sure, that power it would technically be within him.
Yeah. And what that can lead to in the future, who knows?
Does that mean he's also part vampire?
Technically, yeah. I mean, maybe not enough to where it
assuming he had
matters.
He would, right? Because he had the ashes of Walden anyway.
That's right. And the
The
vampires
ashes
don't
of
even
Walden
know
were
that.
used.
Oh yeah, you used the ashes on him.
Ashes of Walden. It was the Fang of Fenrir, the head of a werewolf, two left hands of Rakshasa,
Parts of the Lindworm.
blood of the Lindworm, ashes of the Walden, the Elder Vampire Lord. I had runed Star Metal of Odin's.
The stuff that Mjolnir was made out of.
Yeah, and the stuff that his golem was made out of too. I had some of that.
Yep.
Ring of Mind Shielding, Belt of
many pockets or something like that.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. Basically, Batman's utility belt, right? I wanted to give him. Did I give him the boots? Oh, and I used the spell from that had the necromancy spell that had bound Fenrir. The white.
Did you throw that on him too? I didn't.
The spell itself, I wanted to use. You'd have to look at my sheet. You kept that sheet, right?
Yes,
my drawing of him.
It is in my lunch sack because I was building
Nice.
him at work in my off time. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look.
That sheet that I handed you, minus the cape because Baba Yaga's greedy.
She had to have a little something out of it.
Yeah. But yeah, there was crazy stuff in there, right? The metal that was blessed by Odin, all kind like it's wild. Like this thing was unreal. And I'm like, this kid, and I wanted him to be enchanted in a way that he would hate aberrations. He would just like, this is his purpose in life, is to kill all aberrations. He doesn't want to kill anybody else, but he wants to kill all the aberrations. But he also doesn't really care about anybody else because I didn't really word it that way, I guess. But he just wants to kill the aberrations. Like, they're the bad guys.
And then eat. Because he's had so much put into him that he isn't hungry.
So, yeah. I mean, I guess the only worst thing in the setting that we could have come across that I could have given him would have been, like, Thor's head.
Oh, like, yeah, mostly that got taken by Damanjarl, yeah.
Damanjarl, yeah.
Oh, God. Thor's Fury.
And originally, I had as the player expected to have to use my last wish from my monkey's paw to make this happen.
And you still haven't had to use it yet.
And I haven't had to use it yet. And that was very surprising. Because I just felt like the thing that we were making was probably going to be ridiculous. And I thought that this gave it a way to kind of go wrong. But you were like, oh no, we've got this. Unless you want to use that, then you don't need us. And I was like,
You just got to sacrifice part of yourself into this.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, yeah, well, whatever. All you did was suck some energy out of me. It's fine. We're talking about a character who drank the blood of an ancient vampire.
Yeah, willingly.
Because he's like, yeah, it's fine.
Speaking of the vampire, I was mentioning at the very beginning here that we dove more into more of a comical aspect, and you finally ran back into your quotations wife.
Isabella.
Yes, with about a half dozen to a dozen of her vampire Nosferatu spawn following with.
Yes.
We've talked several times away from the podcast and the game table about Isabel, Walden's daughter, vampire princess in our homebrew setting, who's Walden's basically, for anyone that's just now listening, it's a popular movie right now. He's our Nosferatu Dracula. And the initial story reason why she returned, and that's a different level of absurd beyond even Toybar, because she is being his self-proclaimed wife. Whether that's true or she's just saying the reasons why, it has not been investigated. Toybar hasn't really questioned it. But coming to find out that she is now his wife, in quotations, and very clingy, very fangirl and possessive. And so, like, what's it like to play an absurd character, in my opinion, because we're talking about it? What's it like to play an absurd character that's now attracting even more absurd characters around him?
Toybar, the interesting thing is Toybar hasn't had a chance to, like, have to sit down and deal with it, right? Like, all these things are happening. He's got all these other things that he's got to worry about. Like, she's just kind of there. And he doesn't dislike Isabella, right? By any stretch of the imagination. But she's just kind of, like, always annoying him. Because she's always, like, there, like, trying to interrupt what he's doing and, like, trying to be his attention. And it's an interesting twist to the story of Toybar, because it's usually Toybar the one doing the annoying. He is basically just kind of shutting it out. He's accepted that she's going to be around and there's nothing he can do about it in this moment. So he's just going to deal with it. And after the apparition thing is gone, but he doesn't want her hurt, or it's an interesting thing, especially with the 8 that's going to the War Council.
I really find it along the kind of dynamics for any of our listeners that are listening and then our Supernatural fans. A lot of the dynamics of Sam with Becky, the fangirl.
Yeah. I called her a stage 5 clinger. I told him that she was a stage 5 clinger.
In character.
Yeah.
In character, yeah. He said that in character. I love that Becky Chuck interaction, and I told you this before. And it's because she was so bad that even God was annoyed at her. Like, God couldn't take her for, like, the longest time. And then eventually he's just like, all right, fine.
You wore down God.
I'm like, you wore down God. That has to say something. But yeah, that's a perfect analogy of Isabel. Isabella has been a fun character. Toybar is very worried for Kyle.
It's going to be... It's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Well, I mean, if Kyle killed her dad, she shouldn't be a problem.
Exactly, right? This is a character Toybar is looking at and going, if Isabella is near him, he will kill her. And that is not something that Toybar wants, right? Toybar doesn't want her. He didn't even want Walden to die. He thought that was ridiculous.
I will admit that's 80% Colfax.
That Walden died?
Yeah.
Because wasn't Colfax the one that told Kyle about him and
kind of led them towards each other?
Yeah.
He made a deal with somebody.
With Kyle.
Yeah. And that wasn't... I don't know if there's really going to be any way of stopping those two running into each other in the end.
No, I don't know if there is or not, honestly.
Like, even like, let's assume... and I love doing this in D&D, is like looking back, like, man, what if this decision had happened? Let's assume that they never met in that instance. By the time that we brought the city back now and all this other stuff, I have to imagine that Kyle walking around in that free, and that city has been smashing vampires.
Yeah.
You know, like he's just been smashing them.
Oh yeah, he's been having a heyday. Yeah.
It would have changed a lot of. It just like looking back, it would have changed a lot, right? At this point, there's only Isabella and like 6 or 7 vampires even left. A lot of the city has been destroyed. There's a few people left in there. Like
I had it in my head as about probably 1,500 to 2,000 people left of a true way out of a 50,000, 60,000 population city.
Yeah. So yeah, the way that it went down doesn't bother me, and I loved the DBZ style fight that they had.
While
we were trying to sit there and figure out what to do.
Yeah, we were trying to get out, and they're like throwing each other through walls, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it was great. It was really good.
Brent, from like your point of view of watching Toybar from like session 2 when you joined, and when you and Tove joined the campaign, now we're on session 61 to 62. We're 60 sessions officially later from when you joined.
Yep.
Watching his character literally across the table, what's it like to watch a Satyr Sorcerer and now have a following, make proactive plans in making in quotations defensive unit or offensive unit, and possibly designing maybe more of a weapon, even so, with many, in my opinion, world comparisons. He's making an aberration deterrent with the poo, but in fact it's more than likely going to come back to haunt the setting for future generations to come as a deterrent.
It's been a roller coaster. Starting out, I was like, okay, my character will not like Toybar, just because our personalities were so different. He's very, wild, lackadaisical, fly by the seat of his pants. Merrick was more regimented and, all that fun stuff. So I'm like, okay, no, he's going to Merrick makes things happen. Toybar kind of lets things happen and then reacts to them. And so I was like, okay, I made the conscious choice. Merrick is not going to like Toybar. And so it's been kind of one of those weird things to where as the campaign has gone on, Merrick has kind of like realized that of the magic users he's ran into, even though he's a chaos mage, Toybar's been the most constant one that he's known. So it's just
every once in a while you might just have to deal with the fireball landed on your head.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the last time we played, Merrick was running around with Flint, and I made a point of saying that when they faded to black on that section of the storyline with Merrick and Flint, the last thing Merrick says when we're fading to black was, I wish Toybar was here, or why did it have to be you and not Toybar, or something like that. Where it's like, now it's just like,
I keep getting stuck with this type of character.
I keep getting stuck with this guy. Just give me Toybar. I can handle that. But it's been really interesting. And as far as Apu is concerned, it's kind of one of those natural progressions for like a tier 4 like D&E character is to do these big crazy kind of world altering things because they have like close to godlike power. So making a golem
is superheroes at this point.
Yeah, making a golem is that's par for the course.
It says in the Dungeon Master's Guide we are on par with demigods at this tier.
Yeah, exactly. So that's par for the course. I just really hope Toybar didn't just create Ultron. Peace in our time. You're gonna fight the Aberrations, okay? But now he's got the ashes of a vampire in him. Okay, well, what happens when he runs out of Aberrations? He's gonna want something, and if he's got a little bit of Toybar's Vaffy power, that means he's got a little bit of creation magic in him.
He's being run by Tony Stark's arc reactor.
What if he's hungry, he goes, oh, I need to eat. He can turn something into an aberration, and so
he can create his own universes. He can just go make his own thing where he's, like a great devourer, just do what he wants.
Well, why go create his own universe when he's got one right here, So I'm just kind of like worried, like later on, that he becomes one of those the great devourer, the elemental, nothingness that eats worlds,
I compared him to the Greek god of chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
The potential.
Yeah. So
in the end,
like I said, that's future, campaigns problems. That's not our problem now. If Apu can eat,
or even just a setting.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's a concern of mine, but it's also really exciting because there's so much potential with this thing that's got so much just craziness in it. You could almost do anything with it.
And it isn't something like the DM invented just to throw at the players just to be a dick. It was player made.
Organically created by a character. And so it's kind of one of those things of, oh, look, the consequences of your own actions, type thing.
To be fair, I was going for Batman, but I got the clay guy instead.
Clayface, yeah. I liken Apu as to, back in World War II, the United States making the A-bomb. Now, I'm not here to debate the morality of that, but they created a bomb to end the war. And
here's the morality for you.
Yeah, and then here's
anyone that's watched Oppenheimer, and after the bomb got dropped, they show the consequences afterwards.
It was terrible.
And that's what I meant after. It's like it has many real world comparisons in my mind of you guys have invented the nuclear deterrent, but what happens now?
What? Yeah, so did we just create a magical arms race?
Yeah,
which it's also kind of in theme with the grade decisions, right? Because
and it's very on brand for this campaign. How far are we willing to go to win? So it's really
because we were all worried. Like the whole purpose of this was to save that city and bring it back. And like you said, only a few thousand people survived. The city's pretty much gone. Now all those people got their souls back for sure. But now the new characters that have risen to power, how many more people will they kill over time?
True.
You know what I mean? Because of the decisions that they made.
Yeah, exactly. So this the Apu thing is really interesting, and let's say creating a golem, so perfectly on brand. Toybar just throwing a bunch of random stuff into the pot to see what shakes out, perfectly on brand for the character. Baba Yaga throwing in her 2 cents. It's.
And Gillivickle being in
the
loop of it.
Yeah, there's gonna be it's gonna be a grab bag of shenanigans that comes out afterwards. So it's really interesting.
And I mean,
Toybar already has a plan to keep everybody safe for the time being, right? He wants Rama to create another interdimensional box and put him in there until the final battle, and then unleash him on the Overseer. That is Toybar's current plan. Which is going to be even more cool because if it is underground, then I can have her drop it from the ceiling, and then it's literally the same as dropping a bomb on somebody, except he's going to absorb it. A black hole bomb. Dropping a black hole bomb on him.
And for any of our viewers, if you think this wildness is crazy enough, just comment down below and tell me what you guys think, because this is for sure one of the crazier discussions we've had on this podcast. Besides real world stuff.
yeah, exactly.
And I do my best to try to keep the game bogging down randomness down, right? I don't like to bog the game down too much, even with the shenanigans.
You do that very well.
Yeah, no,
this was Toybar's time to shine with the downtime thing.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, and to be fair, you as the DM created this thing on the spot. So
yeah,
I can't be blamed for this thing doing what it's doing.
Don't sit there and say I'm blameless.
You could have been Batman.
This is a 50-50 thing here.
You could have been Batman.
I converted the enveloper from first edition back in the day off actually the original Skildana and Flint campaign. This thing was to make just an appearance at the very beginning of the campaign as a one-off of like, oh shit, we need to run from this situation. And then after that, it wasn't that supposed to go away, never be seen again and all that. And then when you're mentioning, oh, it does this, this, and that, it's like, well, this thing's just like absorbing magic left and right. And then it just clicked. It's like, I already have something that will make this easier for me to stat out.
Yeah, here's the building blocks, and here's kind of what I want to build. And then you go, oh, okay.
Okay, here's the twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's
Yes.
that's how I Dungeon Master is like, great, here, that's what you want, cool. But here's the twist.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm looking at it. The developer was from the Fiend Folio First
Yes.
Edition, AD&D First Edition, Fiend Folio.
Yes, it was 1981.
Ooh,
He
wow.
literally looks like the dude Clayface,
Oh, yeah, he looks like Clayface. Yeah, absolutely.
and I love it. It's great.
Maybe a little less evil, but yeah, absolutely.
And maybe not stubs for hands, right? Because he's got 2 left hands, so maybe his
Yep.
natural
Yeah,
is
he-
just 2 left hand.
Yeah, he has no mittens. He just has 2 left like clawed hands.
Yeah.
And then they're hardened
like
because you have the metal in there
Mm-hmm.
and all this. So he's resistant to basically non-magical damage.
Yeah, it'll be entertaining. And who knows? You know, I think that the setting that you have been creating over these years is incredible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And one of the cool things that I believe that D&D settings and fantasy settings like this need are these major entities that are just there, you know, for future players to mess with. Just in the campaign setting, there is this being out there that can be this. And these types of stories are the ones that end up creating those beings, and I think that's really cool.
Hey, tabletop gamers. Thank you for watching this episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We come out with new episodes every Wednesday. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as we continue to level up and grow.